Hi, fellow Zimbabweans. For a while now, we have witnessed a struggle of sorts between the government of Zimbabwe and some people in Ndebele land over the recognition of the Mthwakazi king. So who is right and what are the issues to consider? The obvious place to start is by answering this question. Who is or who are the legitimate kings of Zimbabwe? Is it Mthwakazi or is it Great Zimbabwe? Who is the true king? The answer is recorded, fortunately, but let's see if you can figure it out for yourself from historical facts and events. But first and foremost, let me be very clear that the events I am talking about are historical and simply that. So they should not affect or influence our way of life and relationships today. All Zimbabweans should be equal and free under our laws. White Zimbabweans, the Ndebele people, and all other minorities must be free to fully participate in every facet of life, from sport to politics and everything in between. Okay? Secondly, I am doing this in English so that non-Shona speakers can easily understand, and also so things are not lost in translation or manipulated. Right. I will start where the shenanigans began. Mthwakazi fled KZN with a couple hundred people. Why? Our basic history in school teaches that Shaka, a bloodthirsty barbarian, went on a rampage or killing spree to expand his empire, an episode known as Mthwakazi, the crushing. Is this simple narrative true? You know events do not happen in a vacuum. Remember cause and effect. So the first question to ask would be, who is writing the story and why? The answer is, this is being written or reported on by people who wanted to take over control of the Zululands, and Shaka was their main obstacle. It is like asking the AfriForum to do a report on the land program in South Africa today. What do you think that report will say? Second question, why does Shaka want to kill one of his own lieutenants? What has he done? History says because he did not want to give Shaka the cattle he had seized from a raid on Ranisi or Sominisi, a Soto chief. And what would possess Mthwakazi to refuse this so-called vicious, murderous tyrant? So, for example, if you see a man walk up to President E.D. Mnangagwa and slap him hard in the face in public, what will you say? This guy is either mad or he has serious backup. It turns out the latter was true in this case. Mthwakazi had relationships with the people who were fighting Shaka. He even had people at Kurumane like Robert Moffat, the father-in-law of David Livingstone, as close friends, and you later find these same players in the troubles in Zimbabwe. The relationship between Mthwakazi and the British is portrayed as innocent admiration, just friendly. Yeah, right. By now, from history, you should know the characters involved, so you know that there was nothing innocent about this relationship. It was a treacherous and calculating lot who were plotting to usurp the throne, but Shaka was not asleep at the helm. He had sent his lieutenant on a raid so he could establish some things in his absence, and Mthwakazi got wind of the king's suspicions, so he hightailed to the Transvaal. If Shaka is this crazy barbarian, you surely expect him to immediately pursue Mthwakazi, but he does not. Why? In the Transvaal troubles from the Griqua, the Korana, the Afrikaners, and later Zulus eventually force Mthwakazi to move from the Transvaal. But he doesn't go up direct into Mashonaland. He in fact goes eastwards towards Mozambique, avoiding the Shona at all cost. On his way eastward, he spots the Shumba Mini, a Shona scouting party, and immediately turns back and heads west towards Bechuanaland. From here, I'm going to skip his stations and head on to events in Zimbabwe, because now you have a basic picture of what really transpired down south. On reaching present-day Zimbabwe, Mthwakazi does not go near any significant Shona settlements. Instead, he heads over the Zambezi and stays for years in Zambia until news reaches him that half the group he had left in Zimbabwe was about to make his son king in his stead. The elders on his return explained to him that they had feared him dead, but he has them executed anyway. Rather than take on the formidable and well-organized Shona, who also had muzzle loaders, the Ndebele continued their strategy of raiding small outlying villages, killing all the men so that no one could get word out about the raids. The Shona had significant numbers of cattle, even in those smaller villages, because they were subsistence farmers, including animal husbandry, and their social political structure made it possible for any family to acquire and increase the animals they kept. The problem for Mthwakazi was that even though the land was vast, pleasant, peaceful, and mostly sparsely populated, he did not have the numbers and superior weaponry needed to fight the Shona, who had earlier defeated the might of Europe, the Portuguese. So Mthwakazi then sent envoys to the British in the Cape to discuss trade and invited his friend Dr. Moffat and others to come and visit his new homestead, knowing that glowing testimony from respected individuals like him and David Livingstone, among others, would help convince the British to send prospectors, explorers, or prospective settlers, as they continued to have troubles with the Zulus, the Dutch settlers, and others south of the Limpopo. Mthwakazi signed friendship treaties with the British, like the one signed by Cape Colony Governor Sir Benjamin Durban. Between 1866 and 1867, Karl Marx discovered goldfields in Manica district, also in Kwekwe, Shangani, Zimbabwe, Rere, and Mufuli rivers, and the Hartley Hills. By Great Zimbabwe, the absolute monarch refused to grant permission to mine. The British then employed a favored tactic: divide and conquer. They tried to negotiate land and mineral rights with communal heads, but these attempts failed because Shona chiefs refused to be used as they had done with Mthwakazi against Shaka. This led to the dynamiting of Shona chiefs in caves, whilst the Matabele intensified their tactic of hitting outliers, taking women and girls, livestock and food, but killing the men and male children before touching villages, destroying crops and anything they couldn't use. Changamire Torwepi, now commonly referred to as Towe Chipi, in an effort to make him a present-day Vitori, ordered all vulnerable subjects within Mthwakazi's striking distance to the safety of the well-defended capital, Lushingo, whilst the larger villages received reinforcements, with warriors coming mainly from the northwest, northeast, and east. So places like Karoi, Chueshe, Mutoko, Darwin, Manika, etc. By this time, down south, Cecil Rhodes was indeed looking for another Kimberley in the territory that would become Southern Rhodesia. That is the country called Zimbabwe today. So they came up with a master plan to simply sidestep the Shona using Lobengula, who had succeeded his father Mthwakazi upon his death on 9 September 1868. Cecil John Rhodes sent his agent Charles Rudd to negotiate with Lobengula for mining rights in the Mashona areas. The Rudd concession being signed in 1888, which Rhodes used to get a royal charter in 1889 from Queen Victoria and her government, which was by this time reluctant to take on any new financial responsibilities. The charter granted the British South Africa Company legislative, executive, judicial, and financial powers to govern all Mashona lands. Lobengula also signed the Lippert concession, which allowed land to be taken for farms and towns in his name. Rhodes purchased this concession for £30,000 in 1891 and used it for validating his land allocations. The British South Africa Company also imposed a poll tax designed to force Africans off the land to seek work in the new towns, mines, and farms. This resulted in the Mashona uprisings, the Chimurenga, in 1896 to 1897, the period or event Rhodesians use to claim their right by conquest. Do you understand the implications of this, or do you understand what this means? I want to state an obvious thing you should have picked from the events above in case you missed it. That is, Lobengula has no right to sign anything to do with the land between Zambezi and Limpopo, or sign away anything on behalf of the Mashona, because they were not his subjects. He and his father before him did not conquer or defeat or subjugate the Shona at any point in their reign over the Matabele. So his kingship over the land of Zimbabwe is a concocted conspiracy by the British. So with this in mind, I can understand why the Zimbabwe government were riled by the actions of Ed Cross in trying to repeat the Rhodes, British and Lobenkula stunt again with the Mthwakazi king. However, this is not reason enough to deny the Mthwakazi group to reinstate, honor and celebrate their heritage, including their king, so long as it is made known to them that he is only a communal king and not the king of Zimbabwe. It is not a Mthwakazi fault or problem that the Shona have no honor or respect for their history and heritage. Therefore, the Mthwakazi should not be held back or punished for the Shona indifference or apathy to their patrimony. Thank you. So next, we will look at the Shona kingdom and who the real kings are in light of recent claims by several individuals claiming to be Munumutapa, and is Munumutapa a king anyway? Find out in the next episode. Thank you very much. Bye.